In their last game before the World Cup, the United States settles for a scoreless draw against Saudi Arabia in Spain. Herc, what did you think of the performance from the boys in red, white, and blue?
Subpar. If that's the response to a humiliating 2-0 defeat on neutral soil, and that's the very lasting impression the fan base and many pundits will see of you before you head into Qatar, it was uninspiring. It definitely doesn't make you feel like this U.S. men's national team can do anything special, let alone get out of the group.
All right, what about the position battles that we've been focusing on, especially Ricardo Pepi? We were told this was his window. This was his opportunity. He gets a start today. Did he make the most of it?
No, not at all. But I don't necessarily feel that's all on him. He had the fewest touches of even the goalkeeper, Matt Turner, when he was playing in that first half, I believe. That's got to be on the generation of obvious goal-scoring opportunities, of any type of goal-scoring opportunities, even half chances for Ricardo Pepi. That wasn't the case for the U.S. men's national team. They generated very little in the final third. And Ricardo Pepi, maybe a little fault of his own, not necessarily making his presence felt, because Jesus Ferreira, and I know fans and a lot of pundits didn't want to see Jesus Ferreira. I'm one of them, wanted to see Josh Sargent today. But when he came on, he immediately had an opportunity. So Ricardo Pepi needs to do a lot more on that front if he wants to make that trip to Qatar.
All right, so that's up top. What about at the back? A lot of people took notice that for a second straight game, Herc, we got the center back pairing of Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long. Did it look any better this time around?
I believe that's 6 straight starts for Aaron Long. It looked better given the opposition. Obviously, Zimmerman a lot better than Long. I think he had maybe early on one misplayed pass, and then after that, he was solid for what Walker Zimmerman can give you. But it's finding the tandem that works. It's finding people who feel comfortable in the back with the ball at their feet. So when they're pressured a little, they don't cough up the ball or put the midfield in bad spots. I don't necessarily feel that Aaron Long did anything where people say he's out of that flight, but nothing to cement himself as a starter.
All right, Herc, so we got the game against Japan. We got the game against Saudi Arabia. We got 180 minutes, and we got 2 shots on goal. Plus, we got Gio Reyna picking up, at least getting subbed out of the game because of a precautionary concern with his muscle tightness. How big of a worry do you have as we leave this last international window before the World Cup about the U.S. team?
I am very worried for Greg Berhalter and his men and what they potentially won't do at this World Cup in Qatar. You mentioned the health, and that's a huge issue. Greg Berhalter alluded to 5 starters not being available for this camp. Well, then Gio Reyna goes out, and it's that muscular injury again, one that's hampered him from opening window of World Cup qualifying cycle versus El Salvador. He's played sparingly in the lead up to what is Qatar, and it looks like he's going to go through that again. He's such a great talent, and he's got such a high ceiling, but if you can't be available, you can't show people how great and how much potential you have, and that's been the issue for him, and it's really sad to see. And when you talk about what they've not done, 2 shots on goal, that is pitiful. That is humiliating, because you weren't playing against Saudi Arabia's A team. Saudi Arabia led their World Cup qualifying. This was their B team amongst the starters, not here. Both of their leading goal scorers, their captain, and a starting goalkeeper. The goalkeeper who played today plays in the Saudi Arabia 2nd division. It goes to show you how little the U.S. men's national team had. But more worrying than all of that, it's Greg Berhalter and his comments post-game when he said that players were nervy. They were worried about their spots for Qatar. What's it going to look like if you're worried in an empty stadium on neutral ground when all of a sudden you're in the world's biggest sporting spectacle in the biggest event of your life? What are your nerves going to be like then? That, to me, was worrisome.
Okay. So Greg Berhalter might be worried about his team, their attitude, their personality. Are you worried about this team's personality ahead of Qatar?
Yeah, more the confidence level, because that naivety, if you will, of the U.S. men's national team, how brash, how green they are, that sometimes was an advantage to them. They would go in and not nervous because they've not been there, didn't know what to expect, so they had nothing to lose. Well, now they think they have something to lose, and those nerves are showing. That swagger, that arrogance that they once had in World Cup qualifying, whatever game you may think it was and you saw it, it's not been there. It wasn't there versus Japan, and it wasn't there versus Saudi Arabia. So what makes you think it's going to be there against England, against Wales, against Iran?
All right, so you mentioned some of the Saudi Arabian players that weren't available to their manager ahead of this game. What about the players that weren't available to Greg Berhalter? Is there somebody who wasn't here this window that you think could make a big difference come November in the World Cup?
Two players. One is Yunus Musa. I think his ability to drive the ball from one end to another was sorely lacking in the two games. Much better versus Saudi Arabia. Won't even speak on the Japan game, how humiliating that was for the midfield and for the U.S. men's national team. But Yunus Musa has shown a penchant for being able to, from point A to point C, be that B, to get the ball from one end to another. He's a driving force, and that was sorely lacking today. Even if the end product isn't there, it shows you how important he is for the U.S. men's national team. And then, shocker, Jordan Pifak, a goal scorer, a guy who has not stopped scoring goals, who now is in the Bundesliga with Union Berlin, who leads the Bundesliga, left out of this camp when you need somebody, a killer, somebody who's selfish in the box, somebody who can make a difference. He's not even called in.
So there you have it. The U.S. and Saudi Arabia played to a scoreless draw in their last game before the FIFA World Cup. Now, Herc, all we got to do is wait 54 days till the World Cup kicks off.